Welcome to Voices from the Other Side. True encounters, thin places, stories that follow you home. If you love slow burn dread without gore, like this video, subscribe and share it with someone who thinks they know these roads. Tonight's case, Switchback Zero. A midnight rock slide shuts the interstate and pushes a driver onto a marked detour. Official cones, blinking arrows, the works. But every reroute loops her past the same mile marker, the same road crew wearing the faces of people she knows. Footsteps circle the car at 3 a.m. A notification pings, new accident reported, single vehicle rollover. The thumbnail, her own car crushed, time-stamped 5 minutes from now. At the end of the maintenance lane, a silent shed opens like a mouth. Inside, screens replaying her night on roads the state never built, and on every screen she never stops. Buckle in, the mountain's already counting. Hit like, subscribe, and share, then take the detour with us. The rockfall closes the interstate just past midnight, the mountains shouldering their way back across the asphalt as if correcting a long-standing clerical error. Headlights bleed over a curtain of dust. A trooper in a reflective vest waves traffic toward the exit, where a portable arrow blinks everyone down a 2-lane that snakes into the ridges. Mara, civil engineer, 2 coffees into a drive that should have ended an hour ago, follows the ribbon of red taillights, watching her GPS spin like a compass held to a magnet. An orange banner pops up across the map. Official detour, expect delays. The road label beneath it is one she's never seen on any survey, any plan set, any state record. Switchback Zero. She taps the screen. The app chirps and redraws, a clean red line curling up the hillside. Over the contour lines she knows by heart. It looks almost smug, like a signature. The air thins as the convoy climbs. One by one, the cars ahead of her peel off on a gravel spurs in search of U-turns. The arrow points them on, always on. Her own sedan hums dutifully. She tells herself this is what mountain roads do. They tangle, they test, they reward patience. Still, when the first mile marker appears, white enamel, black numbers, she glances at it twice. 19. Familiar, comforting. A reference point to set the mind straight. 10 minutes later, a white enamel, black-numbered 19 flashes in her beams again. Missed the last marker, she says out loud, because speaking makes things measurable. Old road, old signs, sure. She takes the next bend and nearly crunches a traffic cone that wasn't there before. A line of them has sprung up across the far lane, chaperoning her into a single-file chute between rock wall and guardrail. Beyond the cones, figures in safety, green, reflective tape catching her lights and throwing them back like cat eyes. Surveyors. One kneels beside a transit tripod, scribbling on a clipboard. Another stands with a stop/slow paddle cocked at an angle, the way exhausted flaggers let their bones hold the weight. She lowers her window. How much farther to? The nearest figure turns. For a second, the face is the wrong size for the hood, the mouth too wide for the jaw. The impression flutters away, and it's only a man with wind-pinked cheeks and a radio clipped where all radios live. He holds up a palm, not unkindly, and points to a handwritten sign taped to the paddle. Detour continues. Mara nods and rolls on. She tells herself she's seen so many versions of the same crew she's starting to invent familiarity. Out here, in the seam hours, everyone looks like everyone. She taps the dash cam to be sure it's recording, because tomorrow the absurd shape of tonight will look small on a screen and she'll feel silly for having felt anything. Her phone whispers, recalculating, and paints the same red loop. The route arrow wiggles, then stiffens like a needle settling north. She passes mile 19 again. Okay, she says. Old sign, you said that. Footsteps skitter beside the car when she pulls into a turnout to collect herself. Gravel ticks the undercarriage, a nervous dog shaking rein from its coat. The footsteps circle, measured and human, Not boots, she thinks, the rubbery quiet of loafers. Her boss, Owen, always wore loafers with ridiculous, sleek soles. Owen, who had died 2 months ago, stroke on a Saturday morning. Quick, everyone said small mercies like they were handing out tissues. She's remembering his shoes because stress rummages drawers at random. That's all. A knuckle taps the driver's window. She jumps and hits the lock she's already engaged. "Missed the turn," says a voice through the glass. Owen's voice, warm, half amused. "Easy to do on your first run." Her throat goes cold. When she looks properly, nothing stands outside the door but her own reflection and the stitched-together dark behind it. She flips the dome light on, off, on. The reflection does what reflections do. The footsteps move away. Her phone vibrates with a push alert. New incident, single vehicle rollover, roadway partially obstructed. A thumbnail blooms beneath the text. Low angle, hazard lights blinking. The car is her car down to the dent over the left rear wheel well. The timestamp floats 5 minutes into the future. She tells herself the notification is misrouted from some previous call. Systems cough up wrong timestamps all the time. She forces the car back into gear. The engine sounds like it's deciding whether to be helpful. She follows the detour cones around a switchback that gives her a slab of valley and light. Then the road climbs into the trees. The surveyors appear again, more of them now, stretched in a ladder up the shoulder, some with their backs turned as if pretending to be part of the tree line. A woman in a hard hat lifts her clipboard toward the beams, and Mara's heart jerks against her ribs because she knows the exact snail scar on that woman's cheekbone. Sheeran from drainage. Sheeran, whose baby shower she attended. Sheeran keeps her head tilted at a not-quite-human angle, never wholly letting the face settle into itself. Mara presses the accelerator until she feels childish and lets up. She passes mile 19. Her phone pings again with a different tone. Detour updated. The map thickens the red line and slides it slightly left, as if the road itself has shifted. The words Switchback Zero center themselves, the digits skewed just enough to look hand-stamped. Her palms sweat into the steering wheel leather. She wants human company, the relief of mutual confusion, so she scans for taillights. Nothing. The mountain eats sound. It eats horizon. It eats the feeling of being part of a chain of events that began before you and will continue after. At the next curve, the cone line pinches to a full stop. A portable light plant buzzes like a trapped moth. The shed it illuminates looks like every maintenance shed. Corrugated metal, a bay door open to reveal nothing but shadow. 2 tripods stand just outside, their survey heads angled at the road. A sign taped to a sawhorse says slow, cameras calibrating. Mara edges forward. "Do you need me to?" The woman with Sheeran's cheek scar raises a finger in a wait gesture and smiles. The smile is wrong. The little muscles at the corners don't fire. The teeth are a surprise the face hasn't been told to keep. Behind her, a man with the height and stillness of a flagger tips his paddle from slow to stop with theatrical care. The dome of the light plant flickers. The wrong smile widens. The radio at the woman's shoulder hisses with an empty carrier tone, and then very softly, Mara's mother says, "Don't be stubborn, honey. Back it up, take the other way." "I can't hear you," Mara says, which is both true and false. She winds her window down 1 cautious inch. The night has temperature and weight. The carrier tone purrs against her ear. She smells coolant, the burned sugar of it. The phone in the cup holder glows. Incident updated. Rollover cleared, no injuries. The thumbnail shows a splintered guardrail, a crease in the rock face, a smear of oil dark as seawater. The hazard lights blink at a different tempo now, but the dent over the left rear wheel well is the same. Another caption scrolls by, report filed. A PDF icon rotates politely, waiting for her to tap and sign like she always does. Time sheets, plan set approvals, contractor invoices. Systems love compliance more than they love truth. She reverses on instinct and noses the car around the cones into the other lane, which should be a ticketable offense and also the only sane choice. The flagger with the paddle lowers it as if the motion weighs more than arms can bear, and the face under the hard hat reconfigures into Owen again, soft-tied and patient. You missed the turn, the mouth says with 2 syllables too few. First run. The loafers appear beneath the reflective pants cuffs, as if the mountain reached into her memory for the wrong footwear and called it close enough. She goes around him anyway. The cones concede, sliding out of her path with faint rubber sighs. The road snaps into a new angle. The map cheeps and swings the loop to match. Mara drives, and the forest thins in a way her brain catalogs as survey line, that purposeful geometry human hands carve through chaos. Miles should gather behind her. They don't. The mile marker reads 19 with the cheerfulness of repetition. This is impossible, she says, which is a spell in engineering. Name the impossibility and you cut it. She switches apps. The backup GPS shows the same red coil, the same cheerful Switchback Zero. She toggles the dash cam and rewinds a minute. On the tiny screen, her car passes the mile marker. In the rear camera, the marker is different, a blank post without numbers, then a shadow like a man standing behind it, then nothing. She pauses on the shadow frame and leans in until static breaks the image into glitter. She wants badly to be the kind of person who laughs, who collects weird nights like bottle caps and tells the story at barbecues. The map sent me in circles, the cones moved by themselves, I swear. But the mountain has already done the most dangerous thing an environment can do. It convinced her that the only information that matters is the information it provides. When the shed appears again, light plant humming, bay yawning, she stops in the throat of the door and gets out. She takes the key with her and thinks, as if bargaining, I can walk in and still leave if I want. The air inside is cooler by exactly 3 degrees. The smell is paper, dust, a mechanic's wipes, the cellulose of old forms. Along the left wall, license plates hang on nails, county stickers and registration months stripped away so they look naked and anonymized, trophies without names. On the right, a pegboard curls up under the weight of orange vests, each tagged at the collar with a Sharpied label: drainage, signage, geometrics, incident response. Someone has laminated a printout of the state seal and taped it above the pegs like an altar photo. In the bay's center sits a rolling desk with a console of small screens, dashcam feeds, utility right-of-way cams, a bird's-eye grid that smells like drone, even though no drone ticks in the air. On one monitor, she is idling at the door to the shed. On another, she has not yet arrived. On a third, she's already inside, an echo of the motion she's making now. On all of them, she never stops moving. A form sits neatly to the right of the console, clipped to a plastic board with the confidence of paperwork waiting to be born. Her name is in the header: Mara Ashford, Civil, Region 4. She does not remember writing it, and yet the signature line below shows her narrow, anxious cursive, dated tonight. Incident statement, property damage with no injury. Pre-filled text says, operator failed to observe signage due to fatigue. Temporary detour in active calibration. No other vehicles involved. Condition, no impairment. Disposition, released home. She's so grateful to see the word released that her eyes sting. That's how the mountain works. It exhausts you until any official language looks like mercy. Hey there. Owen's voice unfolds from behind, and the rolling chair squeaks in human acknowledgement. She turns, and he is what he has always been in emergencies. Calm, a touch slow to keep her from sprinting off the edge of herself. The loafers are wrong with the vest, but the mountain is forgiving about details the way a dream is. I thought you were. She stops short of saying dead. It feels rude in his presence. Home, he supplies, but home moves around. He looks at the screens as if they are ducks on a pond he fed as a kid. You missed the turn. Easy the first time. You go where the road tells you, and the road tells you what it needs. He points to the signature she doesn't remember making. This keeps the books tidy. I didn't roll, she says. I'm standing here. Exactly, he says, and the word is so kind she almost relaxes into it. So we can close the loop. The radio on the pegboard chirps with the sheriff's cadence of authority, the sound that makes people open doors. No injuries, the voice says. No sign of struggle. Keys thump onto wood, somewhere exactly where a person would set them when relieved. Footsteps cross the bay, loafers, boots. Bare feet, the variety of an inventory. Someone hums, and after a baffled beat, she recognizes the tune as the hold music from the state's procurement line. She laughs once, sharply, because the brain does what it can to survive. Owen smiles in that soft way that asks her not to embarrass either of them. What happens if I don't sign? She asks, though she already has, though the ink is as dry as dust. Owen looks confused, like a man hearing a riddle for the first time. You did, you were tired. He leans a hip on the desk and lowers his voice. It's not personal, Mara. It's an arrangement. Roads borrow ground. Ground asks for something back. Paper is how we square it. Behind him, one monitor shows the cones standing in a fresh orientation, guiding a car exactly like hers into a controlled pinch. Another shows the mile marker, mercifully at last reading 20. A third shows her dashboard with the fuel light blinking yellow. The GPS in all of them labels the road Switchback Zero with the affection of a nickname. What does the zero mean? She asks. That you were here before numbers, he says, and the words seem older than his mouth. He gestures toward the pegboard. The vest labeled geometric swings, though the door is closed and the air is still. Let me walk you out. They step into the night. The light plant has gone quiet. Somewhere a different generator has taken up the duty of humming. The cones stand like kneeling monks. The portable arrow faces the wrong way and corrects itself with a small click, the kind a thermostat makes. A breeze slides down the grade with the relief of a long task finished. Across the way, the mile marker waits, white enamel, black numbers. 19. Enough, Mara announces to the mountain, which is either braver or stupider than she feels. Her voice echoes and does not come back. I'm going down, I am going home. Same thing, Owen says pleasantly. His pleasantness is the push that tips her. She backs into the driver's seat and slams the door and starts the engine before anything else can be kind. The road unspools like a film on a hot bulb. She keeps the speed barely under reckless. The map redraws calmly, a tailor taking in a seam. Every bend gives her a chance to believe in new mileage. Every bend ends at 19. She kills the headlights to break the logic of light and number. The dark accepts the offer. She drives by feel, by the dapple of sky between crowns, the vague paleness of gravel shoulders. The cones glow in their own chemistry like coals. Footsteps keep pace with the car, some narrow, some broad, some that thud like a bear and then click like a heel. Voices drift in through the vents. Her mother asking if she needs her winter coat, Sheeran laughing at a pun from a meeting, Owen saying first run with the patience of a teacher. She turns the radio up to drown them. The radio plays the procurement hold music. She turns it off and the music keeps playing softly through the dash like a remembered sin. On the next pass, she pulls hard onto the shoulder and gets out again, fury braided into fright, because if you can name a thing, you can sometimes convince it to let you pass. She takes the mile marker in both hands. It is colder than metal is supposed to be after midnight in late summer. She digs her feet into the gravel and tugs. The post slides free with the reluctant release of a tooth. She slings it down the slope. It clatters. It does not echo. When she straightens, the road ahead bears a fresh white enamel sign. 19. The paint gleams wetly as if newly made. When she looks back, the slope is clean. Her hands smell like coolant. Her phone, forgotten until now, vibrates on the roof where she left it. Final update, incident closed. The PDF opens itself and scrolls to the signature. The text has added a line she didn't see before. Released home, maintenance shed at conclusion of route. A button at the bottom says directions. She does not touch it. The map opens anyway. The bright red line ends in a gentle dot. Home, she does not remember choosing to drive. She is simply driving, and the road is simpler when you let it. The cones guide her like a patient host. The shed blooms in the beams. The bay door is wider now, as if yawned all the way open by a bored god. The screens inside spill a blue-white glow that looks like water in a cave. Owen stands in the door with his head tilted in a way that is not quite his. For an instant, she sees beneath his face the suggestion of wood grain, growth rings pressed thin as fingerprints. "First run," he says. "Last," she answers, which is another spell, and steps out holding her keys like a charm. Inside, the forms wait with the steadiness of ritual. The vest labeled incident response rustles on its peg. Beyond the screens, deeper in the shed than dimensions allow, something ticks in a pattern she recognizes, the thermal cycle of highway concrete as it releases the day. The mountain is patient because time is a resource it never lacks. It has watched people learn to write and then to write summaries. It has learned to speak in summaries back. Mara looks at the line with her name and the word released and feels the pull in the word that isn't mercy at all but gravity. She could tear the page. She could throw the clipboard down the slope with the marker. She could walk into the trees and sit with her back to a trunk and inhale the damp bark and count herself alive by the spider that finds her knee. Instead, she uncaps the pen and signs her name a second time. And in the instant the ink dries, every version of her on the screens makes the same motion with the same hand. On the shoulder outside, the cones ease themselves into a pattern motorists will recognize as closure. The portable arrow goes dark. The road, satisfied with the paperwork, forgets the loop. In the morning, commuters will roll past a tidy patch of fresh guardrail and a cleaner-than-expected shoulder. The mile marker will read 20 like it always has. A trooper will sip coffee and say, "They finally fixed that detour last night," and no one will think to ask who they were. A PDF in a state folder will show a closed incident with no injury and a signature that looks anxious but compliant. A man in loafers will wave someone through a school drop-off lane and wonder for a second why he feels gravel underfoot. And some evenings, when the light lays long across the valley and the paint on the signs looks almost wet, a new label will appear on certain phones for a few miles. Switchback Zero. It will promise a faster route home. People will take it because that is what people do. Most will come out right where they expect, praising the cleverness of modern maps. A few will find themselves at a maintenance shed where an arrangement waits inside like weather. The mountain calls, and the call is administrative. It watches. It collects. It files. If you keep the books tidy, it will be kind. If you miss the turn, it will give you another chance to read the sign. Either way, it gets what it is owed. Either way, in the quiet between footfalls, you will understand why the zero is not a number but a mouth. The cones eased themselves into a neat taper behind Mara, the shed screens humming in her rear view until the road finally remembered how to be straight. Her phone stamped the night with bureaucracy, incident closed, released home. And the mile markers behaved again, 20 following 19 like a promise kept. But mountains don't end stories, they file them. What the paperwork releases, the ridge retains. Later, a county away, dusk folded over a different overlook where the map flickered from scenic overlook to home road and back, as if practicing a truth it wasn't ready to admit. A tired driver coasted into the gravel, thinking only of rest. The forest had other plans. Footsteps, not hooves, paced the perimeter with the measured confidence of someone who knows your porch. From the tree line, shapes stepped forward with ears and legs a field guide would approve, until one lifted a foreleg and waved, a small, perfect motion borrowed from family doorways and school morning goodbyes. A sheriff's cruiser would arrive soon with a smile that fit like a form and a clipboard already half-filled. But before the pen, before the report, there was the unsettling welcome. A receiving line of the almost familiar, lifting hands and forelegs in practiced unison, as if the woods had been watching us all along. Welcome to the family that waves from the tree line. I pull off at the little gravel turnout because the light is going, and because the mountains seem to be leaning on the road, shouldering dusk into the valley. I tell myself I'm stopping to rest my eyes, to check my phone, to stretch the ache out of my shoulders after 7 hours on I-81. But the truth is, I stop because the ridgeline feels crowded, like someone is standing up there with their hands on their hips, deciding. Ahead of me, the 2-lane is empty, a ribbon laid across a bruise. My GPS chirps and redraws. The map labels the place with a generic scenic overlook tag I don't remember ever seeing. When I zoom, the name changes itself to Home Road, then back, as if correcting a slip. I laugh, then don't. Something moves in the tree line 30 yards off. Deer, 3, then 5, stepping out in that peculiar, careful way of theirs, ankles delicate as hinges. One glances right at me. Another lifts a foreleg and holds it up like a person raising a hand to get a better look. The third tips its head and, I swear, waves. It isn't a big motion. It's a small, earnest little sweep, like the wave my mother used to give when I pulled away for the first day of school. Fingers tucked, elbow tight, a motion learned from church doors and front porches. I'm so startled I wave back through the windshield before I've decided to. The deer's ear twitches. Then the whole row in the trees raises their forelegs, almost in unison, and all at once I'm watching 5 versions of my mother's wave from 5 deer that aren't moving like deer at all. I lock the car without thinking, though I'm inside it, and reach for my phone because phones are documentation and documentation is sanity. June would get this. June, who has always loved to catalog the weird parts of the world with me, who believes in coincidences the way other people believe in weather. I type, pull out near Bland, deer literally waving, like family, call me, need to tell you this while it's still strange. The little bubble says sending for so long I glance up to check if a cloud has swallowed the tower. The bars waver, then stack high. The message goes, but the read never comes. In the near silence, I hear the shape of footsteps, not hooves, not the clatter and slide of deer, but soft rubber soles compacting gravel. They begin behind my left rear quarter, circle the bumper, and lean their weight along the passenger side. The way a person walks when they're looking in windows. I expect to see a hiker or a trooper or a late commuter who needs a jump. Instead, when my gaze snags a profile in the glass, I get my mother's nose and June's hair and my own jawline drawn as if by someone who has studied from across the street. Hey, I say, to the shape or to myself. No. Saying no is a way to fence the world back into its correct yard. The figure resolves into trees again on the next blink. The deer take 2 steps closer as if to cover. One raises its leg, waves goodbye, then rotates the foreleg at the wrist like a hand does. That's when the laugh finally bubbles out of me, thin and breathless, and I clumsy the car into drive. Gravel coughs from under the tires. The GPS happily paints a red route downhill toward the highway, the voice announcing, proceed to Home Road. When I glance again, the label has corrected back to scenic overlook access. I decide I'm tired, and everything looks like something else when you're tired. The road makes two sensible curves and one that feels like a decision I did not vote on. Then I'm back on the two-lane, the guardrail ticking past like a metronome. I pass a mile marker, 19, and it comforts me, something numbered and ordinary in a day that has begun to fray. 5 minutes later, after a set of switchbacks that should have purchased me at least a mile, 19 appears again, white enamel wet with reflected headlight. I slow. The GPS redraws with the pleased hum of a good dog. It shows a gentle loop, as if I have been tracing a finger around a spill. I missed one. I tell the car, the phone, whatever hears you in the dark. I missed one and I'm seeing what I want to see. The footsteps return at the next turnout. They circle in a wider orbit this time, coming up beside my door and pausing long enough that I feel it. Attention, appraising, the warm animal sense of being measured for something. Then a knock, polite, exactly one knuckle, TCK. My finger finds the horn, I don't press it. A voice comes instead, just behind my ear. Illy, it says my name minus time. Illy the way my mother said it when I was 12 and too quick with my answers. Come on now, don't make a scene. Mom, I say, because exhaustion makes cowards of us. And also because the voice has the particular tilt she could put into scolding that meant she was more amused than angry. Mom has been dead 14 months. I accepted casseroles. I planned a funeral. I sold her car. My head knows all that. My ear wants to throw it away and roll the window down. I don't. The deer are still at the tree line, 5 now 7, their bodies arranged in familial ways, the short one tucked beside the tall one, a third standing a little in front like a big sister, kept in place by an invisible palm. The tall one raises its leg again and sweeps, exactly the way June waves at a departing lift, as if announcing I see you, go on then, I see you still. I drive until I run out of belief. When the road bends back into the sky for the third time and the mile marker refuses to promote, I pull into the lot of a campground, the kind with a little office and a bulletin board of trail maps under plastic. The office is closed. The bulletin board has a flyer thumbtacked crooked, bare awareness in big letters. Over it, in ballpoint, someone has written, not the bears. I drop the back of my seat and do what truckers do. I sleep in the slant of it with my jacket over my chest and one shoe on. Around 2, 14 a.m., the footsteps come back from the trees and the gravel and the idea of a front walk, circling, testing. They become shoe steps above my head, like a second story with thin floors. They pace the roof of the Subaru until I think I can read the owner from their gate. Mom on laundry day. June at a hotel hallway. Me, too fast in a grocery store on the phone with no list. Every footfall is someone I know. Two voices at once murmur through the air vents. Don't be stubborn, says Mom. You doing okay, idiot? Says June. I roll onto my side like that will dislodge the sound. Condensation blooms in a map on the glass, dots and squares and small arrows, a trail marked by breath. In the fog, a finger draws home backward, left-handed. By morning, the Subaru smells like sleep and grapes and a faint metallic sweetness I don't identify. My phone has a notification from a number with the sheriff's office exchange. Incident report ready, and a PDF icon that will not open unless I tap it 3 times as if it is testing whether I am willing. The form is a boilerplate I've signed for a parking bump and a backyard fence complaint. It has been populated for me with my name and tonight's date and 0 injuries and no foul play and driver fatigue. It notes wildlife observed and peculiarly consensual warning issued. Down at the bottom, a signature is already scrawled in my own anxious hand. I don't remember signing it. I sure as hell don't remember consenting to a warning. A knock on the window starts my heart up off its stool. 2 people in Park Service green, and then not quite, because the shade of their uniforms is wrong by an inch and a half and the patches are blank. stands smiling the practiced, discouraging smile of rangers about to tell you the trail you wanted washed out years ago. The taller one says, "Morning," with my father's voice the way it sounded on the other side of a Sunday paper. "Long night," the other asks, and the question has June's lilt. Both faces are correct in that way mannequins are correct. Mouths placed in the textbook spot, eyes the right distance apart. A calculation of human arranged and then not adjusted. I crack the window 2 inches. "A little," I say. "Spooked some deer," says Dad's voice. "Happens they make a racket." "We've got a note for you," says June's. She slides a carbonless sheet under the wiper. "Be advised," it begins. "Do not feed or follow wildlife." In the margin in pencil, say hello, then go. I nod because nodding is how you make government people let you go, even when they are borrowing the voices of your family. When I turn away to fold my jacket, one of them taps the PDF on my phone screen through the glass. The submitted stamp appears as if her finger has weight. "What happens if I don't?" I begin, but they are already walking away, smiling over their shoulders with my mother's wave. In the trees behind them, the deer, 8 now, respond like an audience. I leave. Of course I leave. I drive to the only place that has ever countered the mountain's authority in my head. Our old house, the small clapboard on a slope in a hollow with a name you have to learn young to say properly. We rented it half the time we owned it, and nobody had been in it for 6 months. I have the key on my ring out of habit and a kind of guilt. I tell myself I will sit on the porch steps where the shape of my father's shoes made a shallow in the wood and drink coffee and decide what to do. The GPS draws me there as if it knew where I was going all along. For the first mile, it calls the Lane County 742. At the last turn, it updates the label to home without fanfare. At the elbow, where the road lifts before dropping toward the house, the trees stand in a perfectly ordinary wall. Oak and tulip poplar, rhododendron below, the understory crowded with ferns and junk saplings. And there in that shadow, arranged as if the mountain has rehearsed, my family waves. It isn't just my mother and June. It's aunts and uncles and cousins and people I can't name, but know as the faces of photograph frames that lived in our hallway. It's neighbors who cut our grass for free the summer Dad's back went bad. It's a boy who taught me to throw a curve, and a woman who made a casserole with potato chips crushed like snow on top. Some are dead, some are absolutely alive. Some might be both, depending on whether you count the versions of them that walked me safely across 2 lanes of traffic when I was 8. They all lift their hands or their forelegs, some human, some not. And they all wave as if saying, "We see you, we always saw you, go on then, we are watching you go." A deer steps out in front to be a spokesperson. It has a face that is almost not a face, the dark burr of eyes too wide, and when it opens its mouth, all it says is June's favorite insult for me when I am stubborn. Idiot. My laugh comes out bright and painful, a glass under hot water. "You've been practicing us," I say to the trees, to the deer, to the mountain that owns both. "You've been watching too long." Something in the canopy creaks the way a house does when you lean on a banister. The deer bend their legs and tuck them again, and I see the trick of it. It isn't just mimicry, it's instruction. The wave is a corridor. The wave tells the body which way home is. I pull into the rutted patch that used to be lawn. The house looks relieved to see me in the theatrical way empty houses do. The porch swing has collected ghost dust from 1,000 mornings where no one has sat. I have the key halfway to the lock when the front window brightens like a light behind a curtain, and my mother walks across it, not looking out yet, humming the rice cooker song she made up when I was 6. I close my eyes and count because numbers are fences. 1, 2, 3. When I open them, the window holds only trees and my own shape in the glass. My key turns without a catch. Inside, the The shape of every object, the hollow of every chair, the indent where Dad's wallet always lived on the entry table. I make coffee because a ritual is a rope ladder and the smell anchors me to a morning that began somewhere else. When the kettle begins to burble, the footsteps start again on the porch. Slow, polite, and many. I open the door on a porch full of waivers, not close, not crowding. They stand at the edge where the boards end and the first step drops, a distance like a polite neighbor keeps while asking for sugar. They lift their hands in greetings calibrated to 1,000 interactions. The nod and lift, the swivel of the wrist, the school morning flap, the two-finger salute off unseen caps. They do not speak. Speaking is not necessary here. Waving is a language. Down at the split-rail fence, a sheriff's cruiser idles, lights off. The window shines and then the glass rolls down. "Mr. Harrow," calls a voice that is confession and permission. "We had a call." "From who?" I ask, though I know. "Concerned party," says the voice. A door opens. The man who gets out wears a uniform tailored a little too precisely, like someone made a suit from a photograph. He smiles the smile that carries the paper across the threshold of your doubt. "We're just checking. You're home?" "Visiting," I say, which is the smallest truth I can make. He consults a clipboard whose top sheet I recognize as the same PDF from my phone, now printed and made to be real. "Long night," he says. "Wildlife spook you?" I start to shake my head and stop. The waivers hold steady, patient as a choir before the first verse. The sheriff, if he is a sheriff and not the mountain's mouth in a badge, puts a pen on the signature line and turns the board so that the paper faces me. No injury, no foul play, subject at home. Why is that the question? I ask, and it comes out raw. Why is it always no foul play and never what is happening? He considers me with what I recognize as my father's habit, tongue pushed into molar, one eyebrow working independently. Because, he says gently, and his voice is many voices for one heartbeat, we keep the books tidy. You want the books tidy? I do. Of course I do. Tidy books are how the lights stay on and the road gets salted and the plow arrives at the top of the holler when the ice does its mean work. Tidy books write the world in a way that keeps your hands from shaking. I take the pen. I sign. The porch breathes and the footsteps, those infinite variations on known gates, back away just enough to be called privacy. For 3 days I stay because the mountain is nothing if not hospitable when you consent. The deer watch from the trees, and at dusk the family gathers. My family, perfectly incorrect, perfectly dear, and we wave to each other across the yard like fairy signals. I fix the toilet that runs and patch the screen door so the wasps stop inventing shortcuts. I play June's favorite song on my phone and set it on the porch rail, and the deer move their heads to the rhythm like children trying to look cool. On the 4th morning, I wake to the smell of coolant and realize the sweetness in the Subaru was not imagined. On my phone, an email, title transfer confirmed. And beneath it, a calendar invite from no one, return home. The map in the notification sets the pin at the turnout from the first night. The subject line includes a single waving hand emoji. I could stay. The house would let me. The mountain would mark me accounted for. People would wave at the edge of my days, and I would wave back, and the road would forget to lead anywhere else. It would be, what? Quiet, a steady thrum, a life whittled to rituals and the satisfaction of close-cut lists. But I am, unfortunately, still the idiot my sister loves, which is to say stubborn enough to try and courteous enough to tell the mountain I am leaving. So I pack the car and lock the door and stand for a long minute on the porch. The tree line is crowded with the beloved. They raise their hands, their hooves, their idea of hands. They make every goodbye I have ever known at once. Prom nights and moving days and hospice mornings and airport security glass. I raise mine to match and discover something true in my bones. Waves are instructions, yes, but they are also cover. We wave to hide tears, to disguise tremors, to put emotion between us and the cliff. Say hello, then go, I say, and the deer incline their heads like teachers satisfied with recitation. On the way out, every bend offers me one last chance to turn into the holler and pretend I forgot something. The mile marker reads 20 like it always should have. But on certain stretches of shade, the GPS label quietly flickers back to home road and then away, as if reminding me the route is there if I want it. At the turnout, the tree line performs one final little pageant. The deer lift their forelegs. The silhouettes of my mother and June and all of us fill in like graphite in paper grain. They wave, endlessly patient, endlessly sure that all living things circle back. I don't promise to come back soon. I don't say I won't. I put the car in drive and take the road that's pointed at the highway. In the mirror, arms and forelegs move like grass in wind, and for a moment I see the trick of it again. The wave is not a goodbye, it's a bookkeeping entry. It says counted, counted, counted. 2 hours down the interstate on a long overpass with no exits and only fields for company, a handful of people stand at the railing looking down at the traffic. A girl in a yellow jacket, a man in a suit, an old woman in a scarf tied under her chin. They raise their hands and wave at the cars, not asking, not beckoning, just marking. I look up through the windshield and feel my arm lift like a magnet has found it. I wave back once, a small porch door motion. The girl in the yellow jacket laughs, delighted, and points me onward. In the quiet that follows, with miles folding themselves neatly under the tires, the mountain rides along in my peripheral vision. It is not angry. It is not lonely. It is so patient it has become a system. It observed. It recorded. It called me home and let me go. And now it knows my wave, and I know its. They left the tree line with their hands still half raised, the waves settling into memory like ink into paper counted, counted, counted. The sheriff's smile, the clipboard, the tidy words no injury, no foul play, all of it felt less like comfort than bookkeeping. If the woods keep attendance with gestures, what keeps the numbers? A county away, the same mountain answered with height. On a topo, a black square wore a red X and the polite epitaph retired lookout, stairs removed. On a phone screen, the label flickered to observation node, then corrected itself, the way a liar rehearses the truth. At the trailhead, someone had scribbled not the bears under a bulletin. On the ridge, a metal skeleton hummed as if doing math. Wind paged through an invisible ledger. Somewhere between sky and contour line, a cartographer paused, feeling the odd certainty that what waved below was only the front desk. The archive lived above. Waves are entries, she thought, hand on cold steel. But counts are conclusions. The first step wasn't there until her foot remembered it. Far out over the hollers, blue-white orbs drifted like lanterns toward the cab's empty frames. Her phone chimed with a cheerful banner, node sync in progress, please remain still. And high on that ridge, the mountain began to tell a different story, the tower that counts you. The map called it Retired Lookout, a name that sounded like a gold watch and a handshake. On the topo I printed that morning, a little black square sat on a ridge line stitched with switchbacks. The contour lines crowded like teeth around a narrow crown. The County Trail Association had drawn a red X over the tower and a helpful note, stairs removed for safety. Do not climb. The second map, the one glowing in my hand, disagreed. It labeled the same crown observation node, a phrase with no nostalgia in it at all. My phone suggested I check in as if to a cafe. A subtle banner under the pin read, monitored. Wind humped over the ridge in long breaths. The tower rose above the firs and oaks like a stripped skeleton, its metal legs planted in poured pads, its staircase long gone. The cab at the top, once glass, was more frame than room, 4 lines against the sky that made your brain draw the missing panes out of habit. A rusted sign on a post said closed. Someone had hung a second placard beneath it in stenciled letters. Count completed. I didn't come for romance or for trespass. I came because I'm a cartographer who has spent the last year arguing with maps that argue back. After a spring of floods and landslides, half the roads in 3 counties had shifted like thoughts. My job was to make the drawings tell the truth again. From a lookout, even a retired one, you can see the bones under the changes. From a height, the land's logic makes a kind of sense. The tower hummed before I touched it. Not the traffic gnat whine of a drone. You learn that one quickly when you work near survey crews. But a faint, orderly electricity, the sound of circuits at attention. I palmed the leg of the structure. The metal held a little of the morning in it. Something through the steel vibrated with what I swore was counting. Light mechanical clicks, like the thumb wheel on a tally counter being worried by a patient hand. Okay, I told it, because engineers talk to bridges and cartographers talk to towers. I'll stay on the ground, you stay retired. The first step wasn't there until my foot remembered it. That's the truest way I can say it. I put my boot where memory said wood should be, and wood accepted the weight. My hand slid up through the empty air and found a rail that my skin understood. If you'd asked me to describe the paint color of the non-existent handrail, I could have told you. Stay tissue brown, chalked by winters. The part of my brain that keeps grocery lists tried to register panic. The part that keeps survey benchmarks recognized a line of ascent and got to work. By the third phantom step, doubt lost its case. The wind curled closer the higher I climbed, like a cat that has decided to admit you to the house. The ground let go of detail. The trees stopped being trees and became texture. I met the gap where a landing should have been and crossed it on legs that shook exactly as if there were boards. Halfway up, I looked straight down and wished immediately that I hadn't. The stairwell was a column of air, unbothered by even a ghost plank. Still, something held me habit, or a promise I hadn't meant to make. My phone dinged cheerfully as if I'd reached a new level in a game. A small medal appeared at the top of the map. First ascent local. Below it, a line I didn't recognize in any interface I use. Node sync in progress. Please remain still. Not today. I told whatever thought the tower was having, but I didn't move. The air around the cab was colder by a handful of degrees, the way server rooms always are, as if numbers like a chill. I stepped into the space where the catwalk used to ring the cab and stood on nothing that felt enough like something to hold me. The world from up there had the satisfied clarity of a printed map that has been inked and dried and cut square. Hollers became folds you could pinch between finger and thumb. The creek put its elbows on the right stones. I could see my own house 2 counties away. A roof like a thumbnail, the specific glint of the metal dog bowl I'd left on the porch. The tower gave me the gift of scale and then immediately asked for something back. "Jenna Reese," said the wind, and I knew at once it wasn't the wind. It said Reese the way the DMV says it, phonetically careful, looking at lines on a screen. 08/22, 1024, 7391 came next, a cascade of useful numbers. I couldn't tell if they were mine until my stomach recognized a pair of them and dialed dread. The data didn't come as sentences. It came as a ledger riffled by a clerk. Bank routing, high school locker combo, the time on the clock when you ignored the phone, the serial stamped under your father's pacemaker, the way your mother signs her name when she's trying to look brave, the license plate you almost remember from the car that tailgated you in March. I put my fingertips to the steel. The hum in it synced to my pulse and then corrected it, a metronome in a patient teacher's hands. "Please remain still," the phone repeated, as if gentle is the same thing as kind. The light changed. Not the sun, he was doing his honest job on schedule. but the light above the ridges, which laced itself into a grid. Blue-white spheres drifted like midnight lanterns toward the tower. 5, then 9, then something like a constellation that forgot which sky it belonged to. I had seen strange lights from Backroads before and filed them as folklore, unbothered to know whether they were marsh gas or ball lightning or tricks of distance. It is an easy thing not to care about mystery when mystery is patient enough to stay put. The spheres were not far-off phenomena on someone else's ridge tonight. They were eyes doing what eyes do, converging on the brightest object in the room. As they drew near, my phone's little metal changed to a counter, digits turning over with the click of a brass clicker. How many? I said because humans ask machines questions before we remember that machines respond with what they have, which is not always answers. Of what? Present, said the phone. The numbers stepped. Present, present, present. The tower hummed like a stack of servers under a library. Wind paged through an invisible book. I took my boot off the nothing step and put it back again, and the clicker ticked +1. I reached for the rail and withdrew my hand. The counter drove backward with a soft talk and instantly corrected itself forward, as if I had learned something I was not supposed to and the system had edited the transcript. Please don't, I told it, which was absurd. But then again, so was the way my bones accepted the absence of architecture. Don't inventory me. Not inventory, said the wind that wasn't, and it used a voice I recognized because of how it made my jaw want to clench. Owen, my old supervisor in loafers, patient to a fault. Accounting. What's the difference? Inventory is a list, said Owen's voice, a lesson he had liked to give young survey techs who forgot to bring spare pencils. Accounting is a story with numbers in it. I didn't ask to be in your story. You built the stairs back with your feet, the tower said, which is not the kind of sentence anyone can argue with. A flicker in the corner of my eye tugged me toward the cab. The emptiness where windows should be held squares of more than air now. Pixels skittered like plankton. In each pane, a slice of some other vantage. A school hallway, an ICU monitor, a blank police interview room where a cup of coffee was cooling for a person who hadn't shown up yet. In the corner of the pane that looked like my kitchen, a small red dot pulsed, a recording icon, or a heartbeat if you were feeling sentimental. Stop, I said, because commands make your throat feel like it has a spine. Stop counting me. Not you, said a different voice, female and older, and the word dropped straight through my ribs and landed on something soft. My mother never reached the ridge with me. Her lungs had kept her ground-bound the last year, and in the end even the ground had been too much. She would have loved this view in the way she loved postcards from places she would not go. Not you, the voice repeated, not just you. The spheres arrived and eased themselves into a loose ring, like boats finding moorings in a dark harbor. Each carried a number. Each number changed when I breathed. I scrabbled in my pack for anything earthly, granola bar, pencil, the pin-on compass I wear because I don't trust batteries, and came up with the little write-in-the-rain notebook I use to jot down culverts that don't exist and trail junctions where someone moved a sign. I wrote in my neat field hand, "Do not track," and then, on a second line, because we are all both polite and foolish, please. A paper gust tugged. The notebook fluttered. A rectangular shadow laid itself on top of my note. When I lifted the paper, a second slip clung to it, a pre-printed form that hadn't been there a moment before. Observation preferences, node 14. Check boxes. Anonymize, delay, summarize, opt out, requires administrator approval. The options were so normal it made me giddy, the way a bureaucratic solution to an existential problem will sometimes make you laugh. I ticked anonymize. The box filled in for me with a clean digital check, no pen necessary. Beneath the selections, where a signature line waited like a stage, my name already sat, the ink dry, my R running into my H the way it did when I signed too fast. Admin approval, I said, half exasperated, half in awe. Where do I appeal? A click like an old-school slide carousel answered me from somewhere in the frame of the cab. One pane went black and then showed me my own face. My heart startled at the blunt intimacy of it, and then I realized the angle. It was the dash cam in my car, 2 counties away, playing footage of my empty driveway. Above my image, a label populated the upper right corner. Reese, J. Count status, provisional. A second label slotted in, neat in the notches the first had left. Hannah Quinn, count status, completed. Who is Hannah Quinn? I asked, but I knew before the wind answered, because the pane changed to show a missing person flyer thumbtacked to the bulletin board at the trailhead. The picture on the paper was my face, the way cameras make your face worse and truer. The name in bold above it was not mine. A detail like that slides off you until it doesn't. I cupped the air where the missing glass should have been and touched my own flat-printed jawline. The tower hum deepened, as if a server in the stack had spun up. You don't get to make me somebody else, I said. And my voice found the tone my mother used when customer service agents on the phone called her ma'am one too many times. You don't get to file me in another person's cabinet because it's neater. Neater, repeated the tower obligingly. Truer, I said, is not the same thing. The panes considered that. It is a strange thing to be considered by infrastructure. The grid of blue-white lights pulsed once, twice, like a heart taking attendance. The hum stepped through a dozen pitches, calibrating itself to a new problem. I felt it doing math against me, subtracting my breath from the ring of lights, adding my footfalls to a ledger, solving for X where X is the place a human can be said to have been. Please remain still, the phone said one more time, almost apologetic. I looked down the shaft of nothing that passed for stairs. I thought of how my mother used to say, "Don't look down," when I climbed trees as a kid, not because she was afraid of heights, but because she understood the seduction of knowing exactly how far you have to fall. I'm going to leave now, I said. You can count me leaving. The first step down was there because my feet needed it. The second landed after. By the fourth, the counter on my phone ticked backward with pleasant, obedient clicks. Present became departing, departing became absent, absent flashed error and self-corrected to released like a clerk embarrassed by a typo. The tower did not punish me for dissent. It had already gotten what it wanted, which was my shape in its numbers. At the foot of the leg, a man waited with a clipboard. He stood in the negative space between ranger and volunteer, the way a sketch stands between idea and detail. The patch on his sleeve was blank. The smile had been tailored to fit the human face, sincere, withholding nothing, withholding the wrong thing. MS. Reese, he said, with my name pronounced like an answer in an exam. Just need a quick acknowledgement. No incident, no injury, observation in good order. I didn't consent, I said, which is what people say to paper even when the paper can show their signature. You did, he said, and turned the board so I could see the line with my neat, anxious cursive on it. It looked exactly like mine because it was. Who is Hannah Quinn? I asked. A story we misfiled, he said politely. We'll fix it. Fixing is not the same as undoing. He tipped the clipboard toward the signpost with its count completed placard. Counts keep us from losing track, he said. You wouldn't want us to lose track. It's never us when you say it, I said, because when bureaucracy borrows us, you should check whose mouth is speaking. It's you. And you, he said, and I hated the way his tone made the words sound kind. On the way down the access road, the orbs took their places on the far ridges the way crows take their places on a fence, ordinary by virtue of being deft. The phone gave me a little confetti of achievements I didn't want. High point, regional, node visited, sync successful. In the parking area, the bulletin board had a new tack hole in the upper left corner where something had been posted and then removed. A rectangle of lighter wood showed the ghost of a flyer. On the cork, a ballpoint note someone had left, not the bears. At the gas station on the state line, taped beside the lottery numbers and the lost cat printouts and the notice about a church bake sale, the flyer that had been a ghost on the cork became a fact. Have you seen our Hannah? The photo was my face. The caption belonged to a stranger. The number at the bottom would have rung the brother I never had. A small block of text under the photo read, "Last seen at retired lookout. Stairs removed. Do not climb." I took a pen from the counter. "That's me," I told the clerk, who looked up with the concentration of anyone wearing a name tag in a fluorescent room one town from nowhere. "That's not my name." He blinked at the photo, then at me, and performed the mental operation we all do when faced with the possibility that the world is writing in more than one ink. He reached for a piece of tape. "Do you want me to?" "Leave it," I said. "If I go missing, maybe I get found twice." At home that night, the view from my porch included more sky than it had the day before, a trick of having been somewhere taller. Wind combed through the maples like fingers through hair. The dog bowl glinted in exactly the way I had seen it from the cab. In the window of my phone, notifications stacked. Terms of service for things I don't remember installing, observation preferences, updated emails from addresses I couldn't reply to even if I had wanted to, a survey asking me to rate my node experience, 1-5. When I closed my eyes, the tower continued the count on the backs of my eyelids. The numbers that make a person intelligible to systems, the counters that click when you breathe and when you stop, and when your skin touches something you shouldn't step on and does anyway, because we are animals who have trained ourselves to trust phantom stairs if they go where we mean to go. 2 mornings later, a volunteer from the Trail Association posted on their site that the retired lookout had finally been scheduled for demolition. Funding secured. Public safety. The comment thread did what comment threads do. Grief for a view people loved, relief about kids who might have climbed, flame wars about government overreach. A conspiracy-minded aside about mysterious lights and federal monitoring that made my teeth itch. I clicked report not because conspiracy should be silenced, but because it is a poor substitute for dread. Dread is more honest, and you can do useful work with honest. A week after that, I passed an intersection out in the county where the lanes lean into each other like tired shoulders and saw, tied to a telephone pole with twine, a laminated print of a different missing person flyer, the sun hot on its plastic. The name on this one was mine. The picture was Hannah Quinn. The tower, like any bureaucracy, had corrected the error in the way it knows how. It had balanced the ledger. Someone had written in pen across the top, "Found." Someone else had written, "Who?" Sometimes, in the middle of the night when the house settles and the fridge ticks and the creek down the hill remembers an old route, a single click sounds from nowhere, the tiny talk of a tally counter, satisfied. My phone, face down on the table, glows and then goes dark as if a finger has touched it in parting. The map app has started doing a new thing. When I pinch and zoom near the high ridge, when I hover over the small black square labeled retired lookout, the text breathes once and becomes observation node before correcting itself back to a past tense that feels like a favor. I haven't gone back. I don't need to. This is how I know the tower counts. When I pass windows in town at night, I catch in them not just the reflection of my face, but the neat square of the cab as if superimposed on the glass. Its panes showing lives that are none of my business, and yet somehow mine to hold for a moment. Grocery aisles, hospital corners, a motel ice machine waiting for a hand to press its levers. I lift my palm without thinking and hold it over the reflection the way you hold your palm over a candle when you want proof you're here. The glass does not warm, but a number in my head does what numbers do. It advances by 1 and then, courteously, resets to 0. Tonight the mountain tried 3 doors. It rerouted you on Switchback Zero, it greeted you in the family that waves from the tree line, and from above it counted you in the tower that counts you. Detours close, waves settle, numbers advance, because out here the land doesn't chase you, it audits you. If a screen ever says welcome home, don't stop at the shed. If the tree line waves, say hello, then go. If the tower hums nodes sync in progress, keep moving and count yourself leaving. You've been with voices from the other side, true encounters from thin places. If one of tonight's stories tugged a thread you recognize, tell us carefully in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who trusts shortcuts. Sleep with your maps face down. Wave only when you mean it. And if something starts tallying your breath, take one for yourself, then step away. Good night. The books are closed for now.